right, good morning, Bardstown and Nelson County. It's time for another Bradford and Brooks show. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford with you on this absolutely gorgeous Wednesday morning in downtown Bardstown. The sun is shining, and I almost had a little frost on the pumpkin this morning out where I live. But
you weren't out in the pumpkin patch, were you?
no, the rabbits got all our pumpkins, so that's rabbits or deer one, I don't know. Our deer are a little stealthier than yours.
Oh, mine are bold and brassy, and they brought the grandchildren in. Last night there were 2 fawns right up next to my driveway, all the way from the back of the yard. Mm-hmm. And, of course, everybody at my house had to go out and ooh and ah over them, and I was gnashing my teeth. So,
well, at least somebody gets some enjoyment if your flowers don't.
Well, my flowers have paid the price, I can tell you that right now. They come up and nibble in the night, I think.
All right. Well, let's
And they're very fastidious about it. They just pluck the heads off, and leave the stems sticking up there.
Well, could you teach them to deadhead like petunias? That would be real handy. Wouldn't have to go out and do it every day.
They're live heading the petunias. That's what they're doing. I'm going to have to try to find some flower that they don't like.
All right. Well, Margie, we're continuing our series of interviews with candidates for office that are going to be on the November ballot, which is coming pretty quickly now.
Very quickly.
Yeah, and we'll have shows every Wednesday up until the Wednesday before the election, and then I think we've got a Friday coming up.
Yes, we do, on the 14th.
Okay, next Friday.
Yes, Hank Alderman.
All right, and just a quick reminder to our WBRT listeners, the candidates for Judge Executive will meet in another debate next Wednesday, sponsored by WBRT and the Nelson County Gazette, and it'll be on Facebook Live, be on the radio. It'll be everywhere you are. If you want to catch it, you can go on the Nelson County Gazette and get the details, or just watch. We'll be posting more information on our associated Facebook pages about the event. And I've talked to both candidates, and they seem very excited to have another opportunity, another bite at the apple, if you will. So it looks like it'll be a good event. It'll be moderated by It's tough getting old. Your mind goes blank. We're going to have, let's see. All right, Stan Mullins. I'm sorry. Sorry, Stan. Stan Mullins from Hardin County. He moderates an event that they do election time, a speaking event they do in Hardin County, and it's very popular, and he does a really good job at it. So he'll be asking the questions, and the candidates hopefully will be giving the answers. And that's next Wednesday. It'll be at the Civic Center Live, or catch us on your favorite on Facebook, or streaming live on the radio station or cable TV, Bardstown Cable Channel 19, BRTV. All right, well, Margie, I'll shut up, and we need to introduce our special guest today. Our guest is Tracey Bonzo. I should say PVA Tracey Bonzo. She is the current PVA serving Bardstown and Nelson County. And good morning, Tracey.
Good morning.
And you're not a Johnny-come-lately to the PVA office. You have a little bit of experience behind you.
I do. I have been in the office 17 and a half years. Mm-hmm. For the last 7 months, I have been serving as PVA, finishing Barbara's term that she vacated early. And I feel like everything that I have done has been leading up to this. I feel very prepared.
Well, Tracey, tell us something about yourselves. Who is Tracey Bonzo?
Tracey Bonzo is many things, but the highlight reel is I am a Christian, and I'm an American. I'm a wife and mother, a grandmother, a daughter and a sister. So my core values are wrapped up in that. My life is centered in Christ, patriotism, and my family. I'm a hard worker. I value education and knowledge. in any facet. I am very proud to say that I was raised in Eastern Kentucky. My parents still live there, as do a lot of my family. I come from a lot of hard workers, and my father encouraged my sister and myself both to get our education. After meeting my husband, we relocated here, raised our family here. Been here quite a while. Came in '94 the first time. He was transferred out to Montgomery County for a few years. We came back in 2001 and haven't left. Been at the PVA office since 2005. And, you know, one thing I would like to address in the Who is Tracey Bonzo portion of this program is, yes, I was appointed to fill Barbara's shoes, but I do not feel entitled to anyone's vote. I feel very prepared to serve in the manner I am. Public service is something that I'm very passionate about. I'm a compassionate person. I see people who are hurting or in need of help, and my heart goes out to them. I want to treat them the way I want to be treated, and I'm very prepared because of my experience, my education, and the appointment to be able to help them.
Mm-hmm. Well, you shared an experience with us in private conversation. Mm-hmm. Would you like to relate that of how that translates?
I would love to. So last year, an area of the county was reassessed. I had a gentleman that came in and talked to me, and we went over everything with him. I went through every process available, and unfortunately, I was unable to help him because of the way the state mandates the law. When I filed to run for office, that gentleman contacted me, and he said, even though you were unable to help me, I understood a lot that I didn't understand before. You were so helpful and so kind. I want to be the first person to donate to your campaign. You don't know what that did for me. I mean, to be in a situation, you're in a, for a lack of better word, a damned if you do and a damned if you don't situation in the PVA office. Mm-hmm. You have to administer the law the way it is written. Okay. Mm-hmm. When you do that, unfortunately, that oftentimes does raise the assessment on real estate. You have these people come in and you want to help so bad, and you feel personally so responsible. That's a hard thing to carry around with you. Mm-hmm. So for him to say, I get it and I understand and I want to help you, that was so motivating to me, and it really reinforced to me that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Well, what are those state regulations that restrict you, I mean, as far as the appraisal of property?
The state law is, the KRS is written to say that at least once every 4 years, real estate is to be reassessed at 100% of fair market value of that current market that you're in. That's a rough spot to be in. We normally are around 82%. This year it was 76.2, I believe, because I personally feel if you went for the 100% fair market value, if you went for that jugular, you're going to price people out of their homes. So for me, what I have done over the last 17 years is I have learned different ways to work that law in the favor of my taxpayer. I have a very precise way that I assess homes, and I make sure that I find a way to throw out the highest sale. I make sure that I find a way to make my average work in that taxpayer's favor.
And make it more fair.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, you look at those numbers, and numbers don't lie. So if you have a list of numbers and you don't find a way to get some of those damaging numbers out of there, can you imagine being someone that, say that you're not in the best health and you probably should need to go to a nursing home, and your family is trying to decide what's the best for you, and you get an assessment and a tax bill that the family says it's so much better just to go ahead and put them in a nursing home. We can't afford this. that kills my soul. So that's what I do as a PVA is I look and I say, how can I work this in this favor? I will always err on the side of the taxpayer in every situation. And you know, the assessments, the property assessments, they are the most publicized portion of what we do, but it is not all that we do. There are so many other facets of things that have to happen behind the scenes in the PVA office. You know, we work with tangible property all the time. We have CPAs that are constantly submitting that in. That has to be taken care of. You have to make sure that those bills get out correctly. We have to work with the revenue to make sure that we have our recaps in on time. There's a tax calendar you have to follow so closely. So yes, the real estate is a tremendous part of what we do, but it is only scratching the surface.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot goes on in the PVA office that most people aren't aware of.
Absolutely.
I mean, the visible face of it is the letter that your assessments change.
Yes.
And the tax bill that comes later.
Right, absolutely. Of course, you know, there's the ever-changing NADA book that the Department of Revenue sets those rates, and they do set those rates and those assessments. We do not do that in-house. You'll get a card from the clerk's office saying this is what the assessment is. All that is done in Frankfurt. What we need
You're
people
just
to-
passing on the news.
Right. What we need people to do then is come in and see us. Let us know about your mileage. Let us know if there's damage. We have an affidavit that we can have you fill out. We know the questions to ask, but if you don't come in and tell us, we can't help you. So
And you're talking about specifically about a vehicle.
a vehicle
value.
or vehicle, RV, boat, even trailers. You know, that's one big thing. It's almost our nemesis is boat trailers. The Department of Revenue says that if you purchased that trailer with the boat, you don't have to pay taxes on it. But what the issue is, so this guy over here, he's bought a boat from guy A and a trailer from guy B, and then he goes to sell it to guy C. Well, in his mind, he bought it together. But when we get the bill, you have two different titles to that property. So we have all kinds of little things that we can do to help you. Don't just get that bill. If you think something's wrong, call. That is what we're there for.
Okay. Now I know that now you talked about condition, and I've signed affidavits for, some inexpensive vehicles that I got that the tax value was well over the cash price.
Right.
You know, and that was useful because that basically set the tax value at what you paid, and that was a decent savings
Right.
to the taxpayer.
Absolutely. But always bear in mind, as things change, as you drive those vehicles, you know, that NAD number, that is the most reasonable amount that mileage people would put on within a year. They take that down each
Right.
year.
Right.
But if you are driving more than what a normal daily route would be, check at the beginning of the year. Check, you know, and let us check for you. Check every year. You know, we can only lower it, you know, once for that. So I wouldn't do it at 20,000 miles by any means.
Right.
But you know, if you've got a car that's fairly new and you're getting up into the 80 and 90,000 mile range, call us or come in and see us. And you know, there's tricks. You know, we've learned over the year to be able to say, hey, you know, this guy's got an issue. Let's go ahead and do this for them. And
All within the regulations.
absolutely, we will. You know, I've always said, again, pardon my language, I'm not going to go to jail or hell for anybody. So, if it is within the law that I have sworn to hold, I will absolutely help you any way that I can. I will call people. I will find an answer for you, and I will do everything I can within that law.
Okay. Now, you've been PVA 7 months. And I don't know what, you know, the PVA office is kind of out of sight, out of mind for most of us. Are there any changes that you've made or changes you would like to do in the future?
I have made some. I started, like I said, 7 months ago, and I started March 1st. And during that time, we were preparing for the assessments to go out in May. So that was a huge, busy time. Then you have the, open books, the inspection period in May. Then you have appeals in June. And then we were getting people in training and such as that. So I have gotten a birthday card to go out to people who are 65 years older. That is at GBA. So we will get a list. We've already got the list and the labels of the people that would be turning 65 this year from Department of Revenue. We will be sending those out as soon as GBA gets that to us. We are doing condolence letters to people that have, their spouse has passed away. We let them know that we want to continue their homestead. If they have already signed the form, we let them know that it will be rolling over. And if their spouse did not put them on there, then we send it to them and have them sign it. So we're trying to cut down on any homesteads falling off of those accounts.
Right.
And you might explain to people who don't know what the homestead is.
There is a homestead exemption, and it is an exemption that if you are 65 years old or older, or if you are 100% disabled, you are eligible for this exemption. This year it's $40,500 that comes off of your assessment. That normally goes up every 2 years based on the cost of living portion of it. So what you do is you come in or call us. I have helped people even through my cell phone, just trying to send a picture of your driver's license to me. So we need a copy of your driver's license or your disability award letter, and we will get that taken care of. If on the homestead, the 65-year-old portion, let's say that you turned 65 2 years ago and you didn't know about it, come in and tell us. We can get you a refund on that portion for those 2 years. You can only go back 2 years from the date that you paid the tax bill. So come in, let us do that. We can get you a refund for those and get you signed up moving forward. Disability, however, they do not let you do refunds. That is from the Department of Revenue, and we are absolutely not allowed to do that. But come in, let us look at it. We will get you signed up and get you taken care of. We don't want anybody to pay any more than their fair share.
So getting these cards out will help.
It'll be a reminder. I'm also talking to the tax bill printer that prints the tax bills for the sheriff's office. I had a meeting with him in the summer. What I would like to do if I win election is I would love to work with him to get on the tax bill printed in red if you're 65 years old or if you're 100% disabled, do not pay this until you see your PVA if you don't already have the homestead. And it'll just be a little thing in red on the tax bill that will get their attention, and that'll save them from having to wait for a refund. They can come straight in and talk to us.
That would be a real public service.
It does. Yeah. We do put an ad in the newspaper. We put it in the sampler that goes to all the homes for the homestead exemption, and we do run an ad on WBRT about that. We have tried every way that we know how to get that out there, but if it escapes someone, if when we do find out their age, we will make sure that they get it. But I really think that these postcards will go a long way.
Well, I think they would too. They'll get your attention.
Absolutely. We have also, we redid the phone situation. We had a phone line that it just rang in. You picked it up. If we do close for lunch from 12 to 1, so if we weren't there, people just had to keep calling back. So I did upgrade that. We all have voicemail now. You can leave it directly for the person that you're calling to, or you can leave it in the general mailbox. We check those multiple times a day. If it comes to our personal line, then we can see that and get that immediately. If I'm on the phone and somebody calls me, they can leave a voicemail and I'll see that it's there and I can get it as soon as I'm off. So it's better than just having a bunch of notes floating around, to call someone back. Have done that. I have a lot of things I would like to do in the future, but as I was saying before, when I came in, it was such a busy time. And the taxpayer's my top priority. They always will be. So, yes, I'm sure Facebook would be a great presence. And we can get that at some point. But I did not feel that it was prudent to take the time to do that whenever the ball was in my court. I would hate to say to somebody, I dropped the ball on this because I wanted to make sure we had a Facebook page. I just don't feel like it. Social media is very important, and I know that is the wave of how things are going. But I don't want to ever not do my job the way I needed to do.
Well, the older population, some of us are still back here.
Right, and there, believe it or not, there's a lot of younger people that are not on. I have a daughter that is not on Facebook. She said, I have kids, and I can't, because she knows her own personality, she knows that she would get sucked into that, and she said, I don't want to do that. So, it's very important, and I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying at the time that the ball came into my court, it was not prudent at that time. Right. We'll look at that whenever it's a less busy time. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's stop right here, and we'll get in a few commercial messages. You're listening to Bradford and Brooks and our special guest today, PVA Tracey Bonzo. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Please stay tuned. All right, you're back with Bradford and Brooks. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford with you on this beautiful Wednesday morning here in downtown Bardstown, here at the studios on 106 South 3rd. And Margie and I, a special guest today. It's Tracey Bonzo. Tracey is Property Valuation Administrator for for Nelson County, and been in that job 7 months, but you've been at the PVA office for 17 years.
17 and a half years.
17 and a half years.
Yeah. Don't forget that half. It's very important.
Well, I'll tell you, to find somebody who's been at any job 17 years these days is kind of tough.
It is. On-the-job training is key in any role. I don't see how it's any different here.
And you bring a wealth of institutional knowledge too.
Yes.
Because you've in your past role you've been an assessor. Is that right?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine what better experience to bring forward as PVA now.
Right, and I also am a senior Kentucky assessor and a certified Kentucky assessor. I receive those designations from the Department of Revenue. Mm-hmm. Those are very extensive classes. You have to take them not only through Kentucky, but the International Association of Assessment Officers. So this is not something that they just dole out as a participation award. This is a lot of hard work. This is testing. They leave no stone unturned, and they don't hand those out lightly. I am so proud that I have done that, and that is why I know that I was appointed. The governor has an obligation to the citizens to put a person in any office that is vacated that is equipped to handle that office. His only other option in my situation was to appoint someone from the Department of Revenue to come in and do that. That's all fine and well, but here's my problem with that. I have friends in the Department of Revenue, and they're great people, but my people in Nelson County, they don't go to church with them, and they don't go to Kroger and Walmart and Dollar General and church with those people. They could come in, and during that assessment period, they can tell them the law, and they can tell them what the numbers say, and they have no consequence of it. What I love about doing my job, and that I express to my staff, is that you do your job in a manner that upholds the law, but that will, whenever you see someone out, you hold your head up high and you know that you've done your job right, but you've done it by them. I want to be able to look at Jim or Margie and say, I understand that's a bad situation, but no, I did everything for you, and I have. That person from the Department of Revenue will never see you again, Jim, or you, Margie. Those are just numbers. You are a number. To me, you're not a number. So that is why a governor try so hard to put someone, especially in the PVA office, that has been there and is held to a different standard. That's why it's very important that they take that step. You know, Barbara did not anoint me or what have you. You know, it wasn't one of those things. It was, I'm going to send 3 people to take the PVA test. I need someone to be equipped if something happens to me. You have to be prepared for worst case scenario in the PVA office. What if there's a wreck? What if there's an illness? What if there's a death? Those taxpayers can't just be sitting there waiting for somebody to pick up the pieces.
Right.
So we 3 of us went and took the test. I passed. I took it again in 4 years as practice. I passed. She began filling me with so much more information than would scratch the surface. There, as I said, there's so much more that goes on in the PVA office. There is so many things that have to be done with and through the Department of Revenue. There is a tax calendar that you have to adhere to. If you get off of that, it can cause an issue. So you have to know those things. You can't fly by night with this information. And so this wasn't a thing of, oh, I'm going to pass the torch. This is, we need somebody capable. Then whenever she did get ready to retire, why would you not want somebody that knows that? You know, to me...
the governor would be under the obligation to appoint the person the most qualified.
You know, it's just like if you're going in to have surgery, you know, would you say, give me the most qualified person in that field? Or would you say, I'll take that guy over there that's watched 2 surgeries and, you know, doesn't have any classes in that field of study? You know, so with the PVA office, you need to make sure that you have somebody that's ready to step up for those taxpayers. That is our first utmost concern.
Well, Tracey, I wanted to cover again, I think I heard you right, but correct me if I'm wrong, that if somebody is 65 or 100% disabled and they have their current tax bill and they don't have the homestead exemption now, that if they get their tax bill, they can come in and get
Absolutely.
it? Really?
We will do what's called an exoneration. It's just a form that we fill out. We will send it to the sheriff and say, can you please send an amended bill to this taxpayer that includes this exemption that we've granted them? So absolutely. And to reiterate, let's say you paid your bill last year and you were 65 last year and somehow you didn't hear about it. Come in now and tell us. We will do a refund exoneration. We will get you that refund. The sheriff's office will send you a refund for what you overpaid last year, and you will get that advantage this year and ongoing.
So they'll take for like $48,000 off of
40,500.
40,500.
Yeah, absolutely. It usually, depending on what taxing district you are in and what the rate is, it's usually somewhere around $450, $500 that will come off of that. So that's a huge chunk.
That's a significant amount.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And one thing that you need to be aware of if you are on disability, the disability exemption is 100%. Therefore, every year we're going to send you a little slip of paper, and it says, are you still disabled? Please sign and return. We send you an envelope with a stamp on it. You're not out a penny. Just stick it back in the mail. We have to have those for our audits. We get audited every which way there's to audit. There's financial audits, there's performance audits. So if they come in and they pull that file and we don't have those on file for taxpayers, then there's an issue. We have not done our job. So we're not doing that to aggravate people or to try to trip you up and make you lose your exoneration. We want you to have that exoneration. We just have to have that on file for our audit.
Well, Tracey, I wanted to ask you a question about, and this is a case involving my property. Now, the tax value, I won't say it wasn't assessed, but the tax value remained the same.
I know
for
exactly
12
what
years.
you're talking about, yes.
And then the next year, it jumped significantly. And I didn't, I actually, I thought, well, I did an appeal many years ago with another property, but it's like, I really can't appeal it because I thought it was fair. The value was fair. What I would have appealed was the 12-year gap, and I'm like, well, I really can't say that it wasn't assessed in that time. But I was just surprised at the big jump when it did.
I can explain that to you.
Okay.
Okay, so do you remember in between 2006 and 2008, we had that huge drop in the market. Everything was going array. It was just a mess. We had a lot of foreclosures. What sales we did have were low.
Right.
So the law again states, just for informational purposes, 100% of current fair market value. So we cut the county up in 4 parts. We use what's called a quad plan. So as those years were happening, we were still looking at each one of those quads. But we would look at them, and those prices or those assessments that were there were no sale prices that we could say clearly we can raise these people. So if I had put a blanket amount on you just to try to keep it from what happened, that big jump, if you had come in and said, Tracey, why did you raise my property? I don't have anything to show you why I raised it.
You wouldn't have had a basis for that.
Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
So for me and for Barbara, we all sat down and had a big powwow about this. That would have been insult to injury. You've already got the economy's failing. People are losing their homes. People are losing their jobs. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and put 10% on your tax bill. So, for giggles, so that way you won't be mad later. So we decided that it would be something we would have to just keep looking. We will keep looking. We will keep watching. Well, that first area that when that quad came up and the economy was rebounding,
right,
those sales were there. If we hadn't done it the way we did it, then we've got the Department of Revenue on us.
Right.
If we did it the way we had to do it, then we have the taxpayers on us. So PVA in general has a target on their back at all times. But we want to make sure we don't get removed from office. If you do not do your job as a PVA, the Department of Revenue can and will remove you from office. So we did the job and we took the heat and we got through it. But that is something that you need to remember in the current climate that we're in. Everything is huge and people are caught up. We've been around the whole quad. People are caught up. If it tanks again, who knows what's going to happen? That's when we have to have a conversation. Do you want a blanket increase in the middle of the financial turmoil you're in?
Right.
Or do you want to wait and see how it's going to play out in the next time we're able to pull out a comp and say, this is how I comped you? So that's where we're at in that. And also, just for people's information, PVAs and their staff are not exempt from any of this. We pay taxes, but our benefit from working in the office is we get looked at every year from the board, the local board of appeals. They pull our cards and our assessments every single year, and if they don't feel like they're high enough, they can raise us every year to whatever they want without comps. They can just say this is what it is. So please don't feel like we're not in the same boat you're in. We're there with you. But as I said, if you get an assessment letter in May, don't just look at that amount at the top and say, great, I could sell my house for that. If you truly do not believe it's worth that, call then. Once the bills come out, we have to have an error to change. But if you call in May, I can ask you a plethora of questions. I can work with you on so many different levels. But in October, the Department of Revenue says, nope, they got that letter. If they don't call in May, you can only change if you find an error. So call in May.
Excellent point. Okay, well, that answers my question there. All right, and just to be clear, I don't mind paying. I just don't. The increase was big, but I wasn't surprised.
Right.
I really wasn't surprised.
Most people in general aren't. They know what the house is worth. Nobody likes it when that number's translated to the tax bill.
Right.
But, most people do understand it, and I'm glad. Thank you for saying that. I do appreciate that.
Right. Well, my assessment went up again this year, and my wife was like, what are they? I said, I just built a garage. 1,200 square foot garage. I said, and if you notice, it went up the exact amount that I put the cost. And I said, I was expecting it.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Do remember that if you get a permit, what you put on that permit within reason,
Yeah.
that's going to be added on there. Now, if you tell me you're going to build a 4,000 square foot house for $100,000, I'm going to say, well, we better run that through Marshall and Swift and check. Because if not, our field guy from the Department of Revenue is going to say, were you drinking that day, Tracy? What did you put that on for?
Okay. Well,
So you all are pretty restricted to what
We are.
I mean, you can't you can't determine someone's assessment just willy nilly. It's got
You
to
absolutely cannot. It's one of those things. There's a form for that. There is a form that has to be completed. You have to
be.
be
There's
able.
a formula too.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
There's a formula for everything that we do. We are very regulated. The law is
And
key.
I'm very glad of that.
Absolutely. I mean, can you imagine if there wasn't one and your PVA didn't like you? Or can you imagine if your PVA was just having a really bad day and decided, my life stinks, I'm going to just mess up everybody else? Absolutely not. There are regulations for a reason. I will say this, it does not matter who sits in the PVA seat, they have to do the same job that I'm doing. Why not have me, the person that has the experience, the person that has the education, and the person that has the compassion to do everything I can to help you and know the processes and know the formulas. Let me do it. Let me keep helping you. Don't recreate the wheel by having to train somebody else all over
Right.
and not know if you're going to get the same caliber that you have in me.
well, I know that the properties by law had to be valued at 100% of cash
Right.
value. Well, Margie, I'll let you put on your former school board member hat. Why is that? Why do we have to value properties now at 100% of market value? Where did that come from? Do you remember?
Well, 1990.
That's right.
Kara.
Kentucky Education Reform Act.
Yeah,
1990.
Kentucky Education Reform Act, and it was because so many counties were not doing that.
Right.
And they were able to keep the tax bills very low, but that meant that that money was not
Wasn't being collected.
wasn't being collected to
Yeah.
educate the children of their county.
Absolutely, and those taxing districts, they've got a rough job. You think of if we didn't have that, think about the services we would have to cut.
Oh, absolutely.
we enjoy a lot of great services here in
Right.
our great county, and that it has to be a hard job to be on. To figure out those rates, but I'm so thankful that we don't have anything to do with the rates. Make sure that people do know that PVA does not set the
No.
rates by any means. But the assessments do have something to do with that. So
That's part of that formula.
Yeah,
Right.
if we lower assessments, if you had somebody that could come in and lower the assessments, which that's not possible across the board unless the market dictates that,
Right.
your rates would have to go sky high because that X amount of dollars that school, the county, the city, anything else needs, they're still going to get that. They've got to have that to operate, or you're going to lose services.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
your bill wouldn't look much different. Your assessment might be lower,
Right.
but your tax rates are going to be out the roof.
Right, exactly. And every time they pass an unfunded mandate in Frankfort, of course, Jim and I know this is one of my pet peeves, that they pass an unfunded mandate that schools must do. That money must come from somewhere. So
Right.
if it's not part, if the legislature doesn't fund it, that means the local people have to fund it, and that means the local people have to enact whatever tax rate that it is that they need to get the services.
Absolutely.
So,
That is
yeah.
absolutely correct.
Right, and we want our schools to get the money they're supposed to, and I remember after the Reform Act went into effect, I know there were some discussions about, Nelson County is I won't say a wealthy county, but has a lot of revenue, and there was some concern about our tax revenue being divvied up to other counties that weren't so fortunate. But that was kind of the whole impetus behind getting everybody to better fund education across the state.
Right, exactly.
So anyway, I don't know. So as an experiment, do you think Kara was successful?
Yes, it was. But, I mean, it has been slowly chipped away. I mean, for several years, we were kind of in the forefront of education reform with the Pritchard
Right.
Committee. We had the Education Reform Act, and the schools were doing better. But over the years, it is slowly being chipped away at. And then since 2008, school funds have been cut
Right.
every single year. Now, they
Right.
wouldn't cut the seat formula because they could keep the formula the same.
Right.
But then you had everything else was,
They've got transportation. They've got teacher.
textbooks have not been funded for since 2008.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. Transportation services and money for that. More of that, you had a lot of help from Frankfurt equalizing that across the
Right.
state, because particularly in eastern Kentucky, buses are absolutely necessary. But a lot of that has come back on the counties and the school districts now. And so that money has to come from local.
All right. Well, Tracey, we're down to about the last couple of minutes. Anything you'd like to leave with our listening audience before we sign off this morning?
I would love to say to anyone listening, please don't ever be afraid to come into my office. Don't be afraid to call my office. We have a lovely staff. We would love to help you in any way we can. We have a lot of people that come into our office, and the first thing they say is, "I'm really sorry. I don't mean to bother you." Please do not ever feel like you're a bother. We want to help. That is not only our job, but the people that are there, they have been handpicked. They are a fabulous group. They are, I would pit them against anybody. Their customer service skills are amazing. They are passionate people about other people. They're caring people. We want to help. Don't ever be afraid to come in or call. You're not bothering us. That is something that's our life. That's our livelihood and our life. This is not only my job, but it's been my life for a long time. Let me do my job. That's what I'm begging for, is in November, let me do my job. Let me continue to be the person that helps you and cares for you and is compassionate.
All right. Well, thank you, Tracey. And that's just about going to wrap us up for today's Bradford and Brooks. Next Wednesday, we'll have Democrat David Avis, who's a candidate for 3rd District Magistrate. He'll be on with us then, and David's an old Maple Hillian like I am. So
Maple Hill Mafia.
That's right. That's right. If he doesn't wear his hat, I won't recognize him, though. That's we'll talk about that then. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll have the video of today's show up on YouTube, hopefully sooner than later, if I don't forget. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody.